Hi everyone, how are we? Hey, well, good afternoon everyone. Look, it's been great to be at Police National Headquarters today, and good to get an update on the gang unit and also the community beat policing. I had the great privilege, as I said to many of you, of going out with the police on Saturday night, and huge respect and admiration for the work of our officers and what they're doing across a number of fields and a different number of approaches. So it was fantastic to be able to do that, but great to be back here today. And obviously, in the two areas, in the community beat police teams, we obviously know our deep commitment to get into 500 extra police. It's good to see that our recruitment efforts are actually at this stage are progressing well, and obviously a big part of that has been increasing the beat police, as you've seen in Auckland and Wellington, and also in Christchurch. And we've had good feedback about it. We know we've got a lot more work to do, when we're not declaring victory by any stretch of the imagination, but when we were in Auckland, obviously on Sunday, we can see the progress that we're making, and it's been great to see the police announce today that they're going to extend that out across the country with an extra 70 additional officers being assigned into community beat policing. And we've been looking at some of the tools that the police officers have in order to be able to make that beat work actually be more effective as well. The second area is really around gang disruption, and it's fantastic. I mean, the focus from the police on gang and cracking down on gangs has been very obvious. I want to thank the police for the great work they did on the common shares. It's just brilliant work. We want to see a lot more of it, and it was just absolutely outstanding, and just a great example of what we want to see a lot more of, making gang life incredibly difficult for gangs. And the other piece is very much we've got our gang legislation going through the House, as you'll be aware of today, to make sure that police have all the tools that they need to do that job of taking on gangs really seriously. Why are we going after gangs? It's pretty simple. They're 1/4% of the population of New Zealand, and yet they're driving 1/5 of all our serious violent crimes. So we make no apologies for doing so. So all in all, I think we're saying we're really proud of the police, the job that they're doing across the country. Really proud to see the investments in the community beat teams and also in the gang units as well. And I think that's all exactly what we want to do in order to get violent crime moving in the right direction down, getting towards that 20,000 less occurrences, and obviously cracking down also on some serious young offending as well. With that, happy to take your questions.
Jenny Anderson said this morning that this gangs bill is just going to turn the police into the wardrobe police, and it's a complete waste of police resources. What's your take?
A load of rubbish, absolute load of rubbish, and I'm not that interested in what Jenny Anderson thinks, frankly. What the story here is very simple, is we've seen good practice from Western Australia. You know that we've talked about this in opposition. We've brought these laws through a process since day one of coming into government, and we're going to give the police all the tools they need to harass and make life of gangs incredibly difficult.
There are 104 fewer police officers today than there were when your government came into power. Why do you keep talking about 500 extra when we actually have fewer police?
Because that's our goal. That's what we're working towards. That's what we're going to do. What's been good to see is attrition rates across the police have come down. They're actually pretty close to what they've been on average over the last decade now. You saw, I think, in the announcement this morning that there's actually been really good response, even just with monthly applications of people wanting to apply to join the police. That's a good thing. And sorry, it's a big, hairy, audacious, ambitious goal. We get that, but we're going after it and we're going to make it happen.
But you're talking about where these police are going. I mean, ghost police can't arrest people, right?
Well, what we're saying is we're going to have 500 net police added to the service, and that's what we're focused on. That's our goal. We're going to do everything we can. We appreciate it might be tough and difficult, but no, that's our focus.
And the numbers released today, 167 of the 500 are to address vacancies in the force. Is that correct?
I'll let Mark talk to the numbers, but I just say to you, it's pretty simple for us. We've got 500 police to recruit, as we've talked about before. That's one of our goals, making sure we've got more police available. It's important. It's been great to see the police actually deploying them out into highly visible locations on the beat. And look, we've got work to do to make sure we hit that number, and it's going to be a tough number, and it's a good, audacious goal to have, but we're going to go after it, and we're doing it.
Is filling vacancies really extra police?
We're talking about the net police that we had when we came to office, and 500 more from that point, and that's exactly the goal, as you well know, from when we've talked about this in the past.
The breakdown says 167 of them are to fill vacancies for police that have been deployed to the tactical response teams.
Well, all we're focused on is our 500 net police, and that's what we're trying to recruit, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
Sorry, don't understand how those two things can be true. That it's a net gain, but also it's filling vacancies. Those two things are not compatible.
It's very simple. It's the number of police that we had when we came to power, as you know, back on November the 27th, and we want 500 extra police added to the force over the next 2 years. That's what our focus is on, and so that's what we're recruiting against. That's what we're doing. We've had lower levels of attrition, which has been good. That's come down, and we've had good levels of applicants coming up. We've got a lot of work to do to get it, but we want to see a net 500 police officers added to the police force in the coming years.
So on the gang patch ban in the home for repeat offenders, the Police Association says this will be confrontational and intrusive and it could inflame tensions. So what work's underway to sort of ensure police are able to safely enforce that extra power?
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Mark talk to it, but the police are actually, understand the legislation that's coming. There'll be a period of actual consultation and making sure they perfect operational and improve operational practice, so that from the end of November, it is really clear and that the legislation can be applied and operationalised in the right way. But again, I want the police to have maximum amounts of tools, because we are going to harass gangs. We're going to make their life incredibly difficult because we need to make sure when you've got 1/4 of 1% of the population causing up to a fifth of serious violent crime, that has to stop. And so that's a good way to go after them.
So do you think there is a risk of inflaming tensions?
I'll let Mark talk to that, but frankly, I just want to make sure the police have every tool possible that they can do their job. And I make no apologies for making life tough for gangs.
Yeah, I just think on that one, I think firstly, the police are very used to dealing with gangs. We have a highly trained, world-class police service. They are currently doing a lot of work in preparation for the new gang legislation that will become available to them in November. And the reality of it is this, is that if gang members in this country have started to learn that they're above the law and they don't have to stick to the law like everyone, or like the rest of us do, if they choose to break the law 3 times in relation to continuing to wear gang patches out in the community, and quite simply they wear gang patches to intimidate the communities that they're in, if they breach 3 times, then the police will have the ability to go into their home and take the patch. And gang members do not like the police going into their homes because normally there's drugs and illegal firearms and things like that in there. So we think that will be a very good deterrent, and it's a very important power that the police will have to make sure that this legislation is actually effective and that Kiwis don't have to see gang members walking around in patches anymore.
Minister, what have you both, Minister and Prime Minister, what have you both been advised from police regarding how the wider gang powers or legislation will be enforced by police?
I mean, again, we talked about it as to, obviously our legislation, hopefully goes through the House today. There'll be a period of time where they will have engagement with the communities to make sure that everyone's aware of what the operating stance and posture is going to be from late November, so that everyone's very clear about that. And then from late November, the posture is implemented and away we go.
But what have you been advised as to how police will operationally use these tools?
Well, again, they will. That's up to them to use as operations.
I'm kind of asking, what have you been advised? Because obviously there's been talk about how police will use them.
Well, I've been briefed.
So how will it work?
I've been briefed on the police are preparing. They're making sure that their ICT systems are ready. They're making sure that their staff will be trained and understand the new laws and how to apply those. And they'll be trained in the techniques that they may need to use to ensure that the laws are enforced.
The police have, so far this year, removed about 800 gang members off the national gang list. What's your understanding of the rationale behind that?
Look, I haven't been briefed on any change around the national gang list. The police have a criteria for that. I've got Deputy Commissioner McSkibbing here if you want to talk to that. Jevon.
Kia ora, thank you. Deputy Commissioner, Operations, New Zealand Police. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, why have you've removed nearly 8% of gang members, you've taken them off the national gang list?
So over the last year we've been doing a lot of validation about who's on the gang list and actually making sure that's accurate in terms of the definition. That is about hygiene and not actually making any significant change in terms of the definitions.
Would you be taking dead people off the list? Because that's been one of the arguments that people...
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. Hygiene is about making sure that that list is accurate to the people that we need to actually address that are in gangs.
And you think we need to be careful then with statistics? Say, for example, if politicians are talking about gang offending dropping, we'd have to be careful with that if the number of gang...
We always need to be careful with statistics.
I I think on that one,
You won't start celebrating the number of gang members on the national.
Well, you haven't heard us do. You haven't heard us
We're not
do that.
celebrating anything.
We haven't heard you do that. That's right.
We've got some good progress happening here,
Yeah.
and we've got a clear set of plans and a clear course of action and a change posture and a change position. But actually, let's be clear, we've got a long way to go.
We have absolutely. Just really quickly on Bennett's question around the national gang list. We recognise that it was actually, and the Deputy Commissioner's just highlighted, they're going through and sanitising it because they sort of identify that it's quite hard to come off it, and so they want it to be reliable data, and that's why they're doing work around that.
Did you
that
ask
gang
them
list.
to do that?
No.
It's kind of convenient for the government.
Well,
Guys, no disrespect, but it's not about the frickin' targets. It's actually about the outcomes, and the outcomes here are actually reducing violent crime. And so we want to make sure we've got the best, most accurate, sanitised, clean data we possibly can. So I appreciate the base may be moving, and that'll be what it will be. But it's important we have good quality data because that data actually drives a lot of actual actions from police officers going after gangs. So that's the important part. Yep, we'll keep making sure the data's clean and it's hygiened exactly as it should be. That's exactly what we want to do. But what I'm interested in is the outcomes, and the outcomes have to be less violent crime incidents. And as you know, we've got a long way to go. We've got some examples of where we've got good results and good outcomes, and as you've seen in Auckland CBD, but we've now got a set of new laws on gangs. We've got a clear position and policy about how we want to operate and the stance we want to have with gangs, and we're going to go after that.
Coming back to the 167 vacancies in the tactical response teams, what was it about the rollout of that strategy that led to those vacancies?
I'll let Mark or the Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner speak to that.
Yeah, I think just really quickly on the numbers, like the Prime Minister said, is that we set our target as we came into government, the net number. We said that we'd deliver 500 additional police officers. There were existing vacancies that were already there under the previous government. That is up to the police to decide how and where they're going to deploy their assets. And it's not uncommon for police to deploy assets into where they're needed at that time. But I'll let the Deputy Commissioner speak to that if he wants to.
Sure, you'll be aware that the tactical response model is focusing on the most harmful and really the violent offenders in our communities. That investment pre the election, we were behind in delivering all those frontline officers to the staff. We had 10,211 frontline officers the day that government took place, and at the end of this investment we'll have 10,711. It's 500 extra police officers.
So this is for
but you
dog
had a number of
teams.
vacancies at the time, right? So if the police force is understaffed at that point and you're trying to add more to it, to make
500 more, yeah.
500 more from the police officers we had in the system when we came to power.
Correct.
It's pretty simple, Jenna. It's pretty simple.
I suppose with this policy, was it always your Deputy Commissioner, was it always your expectation that with this policy of an additional 500 police officers that it would be filling the vacancies, or it would fill the vacancies and then have 500 on top of it?
Well, there was no expectation because before this government come in, we had no expectation of extra officers. So the fact that it is, we need these officers in the front line focusing on the most violent, the gangs, and on front line and doing beat, and that's what we're
Adam,
doing.
if I can be really clear with you, what it was very simply saying, what's the number of actual police officers we have when we came to power, on the night that we came to power? Forget about the vacancies. What's the physical number of police officers we have at that point in time? And let's add 500 more to it. That's what we're working on. So as to where those police officers actually get assigned and where they go, and how you may have categorised them, I don't really care. All I know is that when we came in, we had a certain number of police officers. I think it was 10,200 from memory. Yep, and we want to add 500 to it. So we can discuss the targets as much as you like, but the bottom line is that's our goal. That's what we've set. That's the way we've set that parameter up, and we're going after it.
Can I just ask about the Firearms registry from the Deputy Commissioner? Would police be comfortable if the Firearms registry was scrapped?
We believe that the Firearms registry has added a lot of value. I believe that that's the case. It's the evidence overseas, and that's our position.
And again, as you well. No. As you've heard us say very clearly, what we have is a commitment to review the firearms register to make sure that it's operating as efficiently as it possibly can, and that it's driving as much, say, public safety outcomes as it possibly can as well. That's all that we've committed to, and so rest assured, the discussion about what comes once we've got to do the review and make sure that it's operationalised and it's being used in the right way, and it's being, it's actually for the amount of money we're putting in, that we're getting the results, the compliance, actually the uptakes right, all those kinds of things will be considered in the review, and that's what we've committed to do.
But for you can rule out it being scrapped altogether?
I'd need quite a lot of evidence to highlight that it would be going. I just want to make sure it's functioning effectively, and that's what the review is going to be focused on.
You can't commit to not scrapping it?
What we've committed to doing is doing a review of the firearms register. We need to do that review, and then we work out how we improve it from there.
We're going to go.
Okay.
GDP.
Yes, GDP. Yep.
GDP has gone down. What do you think about that?
Not surprising. We saw the numbers today at minus 0.2%. Again, that's not surprising. It's exactly how New Zealanders are feeling. The country's essentially in recession, has been for some time. It's why we're working very clearly on getting government spending under control so we can lower inflation, so we can lower interest rates, get the economy growing, and then actually keep people in work. And what you're seeing at the moment is a very tough time economically for New Zealand, and yes, particularly, I think this month and in the next few months, seeing a lot of businesses that have been hanging in there as long as they possibly can with high inflation, high interest rates, and suppressed demand because the economy's been shrinking, and now they're having to lay off workers, and that's a really tragic state. And that's why I said 2.5 years ago to you guys when I took over the leadership of the National Party, if you don't manage inflation, it has a whole bunch of pain and suffering that comes down the pike, and that's what we're seeing right now. So that's why we're working hard to get spending under control, which you saw in the budget, and it'll be ongoing daily practice in our government. We're now seeing inflation at 3.2%, coming down, we believe below 2% in the next quarter, 3% in the next quarter, and then you've started to see interest rates being cut, and we're on a downward trajectory there. That hopefully will give people more confidence, and then you're seeing confidence lift, but it doesn't confidence is different from actually what's happening for people out there, and still acknowledging it's very tough. If we can get to a place then where we actually have people freed up because they've got more money to spend in the economy because they've got lower mortgage payments, if we've got businesses that then have confidence to invest because they've got certainty from a government, but they've also got know that they can make those investments because of lower interest rates, that's when you'll see the economy grow and you'll have people continue to be in work. Okay, team, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.